Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome all of you. And today we have again a 12th series of Yashaswini and Idol. And along with today's speakers, Yedipali Mehta on intricacies in refund under GST and work time management for office with technology. Priya Madreja and Dipali Mehta today speaking along with the moderators Nikita, Dipti Madam, Ritika. We also have with us a very young and dynamic council member who is taking care of all the technology in the institute, CA Umesh Sharma from Western region. And I request before starting the session, I request CA Umesh Sharma to please share words of wisdom to all our participants.
Thank you, Preeti ma'am. And she is my first chairman. We were together in WIRC. So I have worked under her, and I know this committee, that is the Women Members Excellence Committee, will excel to further heights under chairmanship of Preeti ma'am. And I am very happy today that I am giving here opening remarks to all the Yashaswinis. Yashaswini is a very good word that has been selected by the committee for this particular program, and we have the idols, those women who are leading with example in our profession and guiding to our fraternity at large. And it's a very good day today because it's a World Environment Day also. And to balance the environment, we need all types of aspect to be taken care of. And I think that woman is the best person to balance everything in life. And today we are discussing here very important discussions on the growth of our women members at ICI. We are working hand to hand with other committees. I am also in AI in ICI committee, where we are coming out with the AI tools for women members also. And I will request Preeti Savla ma'am that those who are AI enthusiastic in your team or in the women fraternity, please make a group of them, and under your leadership, we will get these AI enthusiastic to get trained themselves, and they can impart knowledge in further, because we want your support to adopt AI in our women members as fast as possible. And we know that Preeti ma'am is already a AI leader. She uses AI very intelligently. Her original intelligence is much higher than artificial intelligence, we all know. But we need to implement AI as soon as possible. So thanks for allowing me to present before you my some of the views, and looking forward for excellent deliberation today. So thank you, Preeti ma'am. Over to you.
Thank you, Umesh bhai. And today I can say that is a perfect session on which you are here to give the opening remarks, because today is the session of GST as well as the work-life management software, that is technology. So today is the combination of GST and technology, which is like Umesh Sharma. So I can say I'm just correlating that. So, so because
GST is my first passion. Now AI has gearing up. Thank you.
And that is the best combination which we have today along with Umesh bhai. So I am sure with this combination, everyone can lead in a best manner. And Umesh bhai, thank you very much for taking your time and coming over here and addressing all the participants. This really goes very well in a long time to go. And when we were together, we have always shared the dice and spoken for very little, and continuing the same trend. I think we should also now give the charge to our moderators. But before that, I want to tell all of you that we are coming out with a very wonderful conference that is Falcon on 29 June at Sahara Star Mumbai. We have already crossed more than 50% of the registration, and registration is in full swing. I request all of you to join for this CA Women Leadership Conclave, where we have the speakers not only from India but from international also, and there are a lot of opportunities for work from home. We are relaunching the women portal for part-time and flexi-time work from home, and lot of firms will be joining, and lot of women participants also will be joining. We have a special booth for a lot of opportunities for the women, and you'll get opportunity to enroll immediately on the spot. And it is at Mumbai Sahara Star. I request all of you to please come participate in large number. The members are there from across world in this conference. So it's mark your diary, block your calendar with 29 June CA Women Leadership Conclave. The first time in the history of ICI, 75 years, we are coming out with such a leadership conclave where the leaders across globe will be joining. And this is one of the great opportunity to all of you to network and meet everyone. So please join. The registration link is already open, and you can also become a team leader for the same. With these words, I open and congratulate all of you to be part of this Yashaswini and Idol series part 12. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Preeti ma'am. Good afternoon, all of you. Myself, C. Nikita Soni. I welcome all the participants and speakers to this webinar. This is the 12th session of the Yashaswini Live Webinar Series. Today, we have our first speaker, CA Dipali Mehta ma'am. She is the founder, partner of Mehta and Shah, a chartered accountancy firm based in Mumbai. This firm is engaged in providing services in the area of taxation advisory and accounting services for both the direct and indirect taxes. With a strong reputation in the field, Dipali Mehta has received the prestigious award, including Best Group Leadership Award in 2010-11 and 2014-15 from Goods and Service Tax Practitioners Association, Maharashtra. Dipali Mehta was also honored as Best Column Writer for 2018-19 and received the appreciation for dedicated contributions in 2019-20 and 21-22 in GST Review Monthly Magazine. As an active committee member of IDT in the Chamber of Tax Consultants, Dipali Mehta ma'am frequently delivers lectures in various professional forums, and she also conducts the training sessions for corporate administrative personnel on complying with indirect tax laws. I welcome C. Dipali ma'am, and it is over to you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Ma'am, you are on mute. Yeah. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much, Nikita, for your kind words, and thank you, Preeti, for giving this opportunity to share my knowledge with everybody. I would like to say that Preeti, being a very dynamic person, I am associated with her since last more than 15 years, and she has always been a supportive factor for all the women fraternity of our profession, always in the lead to give opportunities to all the females. I really appreciate that, and today where I am, she is equally responsible because she was the one who has given me the first chance as a speaker, and I'm sure there are a lot many of us who will agree to this. And Preeti, we hope you continue this era of yours more ahead in future. So with today's topic, I'll just share my screen. So this Yashaswini Idol 12th, today is the 12th series, and as Umesh ji rightly said, that all are Yashaswinis, and we really need no introduction to this word because we have been facing it day in, day out. Today we are going to deal with the intricacies of GST refund. So GST has come in 2017. Until then, till even today, it is still evolving. Every day, everybody is facing new challenges. In all the fields of, you can say, all the factors of the GST Act. Some are facing in the input tax credit, some are facing in the refund, some are facing along with this show cause notices, and everybody is learning. Even the governmental officers, they are also learning this. They are also not fully aware of the act, and thus they also end up, doing errors, or you can say something, some kind of orders where they themselves are not competent enough to do it. But nevertheless, this act is very evolving and we all are learning with it. So today we are going to deal with the intricacies of refund. Now, the first thing is that who can claim refund? Now, any person, see, generally in the act, it is always written as a registered person, but practically array, but for particularly for this refund section, it is, the section says any person, matlab any person, even if that person is not registered, then also he can claim the refund. Refund of what? Of tax and interest. So the refund is allowed only of tax and interest and not of penalty or late fee. So whatever tax interest, if you feel you have wrongly paid to the government, then you can very well claim this refund. Also, refund can be claimed of the unutilized balance in the electronic cash ledger. Now, by mistake, suppose you are paying more taxes in your cash ledger, then that refund also we can claim. Now, what is the time period for this refund? The refund time period is within 2 years from the date of payment of the tax or the interest. So, whenever you have excessively made any payment of tax or interest and you want to claim the refund of the same, then the time period is within 2 years, you have to claim this. Now, there are some organizations like the UNO, that is United Nations Organizations, financial institution, embassies of foreign countries. Now, these people do not have any outward supply generally because they are providing honorary services to the government. In such a scenario, they have their expenses which they incur for their administrative purposes. So you can claim the refund of such expenses, which should be before the expiry of 6 months from the last day of the quarter in which this supply is received. So whenever you are purchasing any expense or purchasing any stationery, for example, for your office administration, you can claim the refund before the expiry of 6 months of the quarter in which the supply was received. So if the supply is received, say now in June period, then they have the time period till December to claim the refund of the supply which they have purchased in June. The third kind of refund is the refund of unutilized input tax credit. Now we have seen above whatever tax payment you make. The second is about the United Nations organizations and similar embassies. Third is about the refund of the unutilized input tax credit. What do you mean by unutilized input tax credit? Some input tax credit which is not yet utilized and which is there in your electronic credit ledger. So when you are taking the input tax credit in your GSTR 3B, it is called availing. And when you are utilizing it against your tax payments, it is called utilization. Now, after the availment and the utilization, if any of the credit is still there in your electronic credit ledger, it is called unutilized input tax credit. Now, can you get the unutilized input tax credit refund of all the dealers? The answer is no. The answer to this is that you get the refund of unutilized input tax credits of zero rated supplies an inverted rate duty structure. Now we will deal in detail further how this is to be dealt with. So at present, I am just keeping this by mentioning it. And the time period is at the end of the tax period. Now, what do you mean by tax period? Tax period means the period for which return is required to be furnished. So, suppose you are furnishing the return for the month of, say, May 24. Now you will be furnishing before 20th June. So, once you furnish this return, after that, May return you are furnishing on 20th June. So after 20th June, if you have any unutilized credit balance in your credit ledger, then you can claim the refund of this period, that is the June period. That is what the section says. Now, who can claim refund? Earlier, we were what kind of refund are available. Now, who further can claim refund is exporter of goods or services of both. It means what? That if you are exporting your goods along with the payment of IGST, then also you get the refund of that IGST amount which you have paid along with your exports. Now, how you get this refund is by filing of shipping bill and return in form GSTR 1. By mistake, it is written 3. In form GSTR 1 or GSTR 3B or table 6A. That is, table 6A is of GSTR 1. So you can get the refund. So earlier we had payment of tax, then United Nations Organization, then input tax credit, and now this is the IGST amount which you are paying when you are exporting your goods. Next kind of refund is if you are supplying to a SEZ. That is SEZ developer, either you are supplying to a unit in the SEZ or you are supplying any goods or services to SEZ developer and you are supplying to them with payment of tax. Then what is the time period is that once the goods or services are admitted or once the services are received in full in that SEZ and it is endorsed by the specified SEZ officer, then after that you can claim the refund of this tax paid on this supply. Deemed exporter, all this we are going to deal in further. Deemed exporter is at the end of the tax period, that is when the return is filed. An unregistered consumer also can claim the refund either on the cancellation of a flat or the cancellation of your insurance policy. So in these two scenarios, unregistered consumer, the unregistered consumer can claim refund in other scenarios also where they feel it's injustice is done to them. But here this specifically 2 circulars are issued for this unregistered dealer. So that's the reason I have mentioned this. And the time period is the cancellation agreement. So within 2 years of that cancellation agreement, you have to file the refund claim. So in whatever I have discussed earlier, that is in short, I have given here that what all refund you can claim. First is refund of tax paid on zero rated supplies. Second is the inputs or input services which you are using in making the zero rated supplies. Third is that if you are supplying goods either as a deemed exporter or you are receiving goods from those deemed exporter, either of them can claim the refund, either the supplier or the recipient. Then there is unutilized input tax credit of inverted rate structure. What do you mean by inverted rate duty structure? We will explain in ahead. Refund of tax paid on a supply which is not provided either wholly or partially and for which invoice has not been issued. So for example, you intend to provide a supply and hence you are raising an invoice to that person. In such a, now what happens is that somehow the supply gets cancelled and then but you have already paid the tax on the same, that is the tax paid in excess. So in such a scenario also you can claim the refund of that tax. Refund of tax in pursuance of section 77. Now what does this means is that suppose you are treating a particular supply as an intrastate supply and hence you are paying CGST and SGST. Now tomorrow you come to know that by mistake it was an intrastate supply, but actually it was an interstate supply and IGST was required to be paid. Then in such a scenario, you have to pay IGST tax and get the refund of that CGST and SGST. So that is the section 77 refund. Then tax and interest, if any or any other amount paid by the applicant if he had not passed on the incidents to any other person. Here is that unregistered person where if they if they think that they have paid the tax for which the incidence is not passed and is the tax is wrongly collected from them, then they can very well claim the refund of the same. So these are the types of the refund which can be availed, which you can receive in either in cash or in your electronic credit ledger. What are the refunds ineligible? Now, if you will think that whatever unutilized ITC is there in your electronic credit ledger that you are eligible for refund, then no. Only in the case of a zero rated supply, that is exporters or SEZ suppliers, and in the case of inverted rate duty structure, you are eligible for the refund of this unutilized balance in your electronic credit ledger. Any other dealer cannot claim the refund of this unutilized balance in the electronic credit ledger. Even if by mistake you are claiming that refund, then it will go to the Consumers Welfare Fund and the dealer will not be able to claim this refund. But yes, you can carry forward that ITC in your electronic credit ledger till you are cancelling your GST registration. So till that time you can carry forward. There is no stoppage as to how many years you can carry forward this balance in your electronic credit ledger. Next time you are not, if the goods are exported out of India are subjected to export duty, then also refund is not available. So for example, like tobacco products, they are subjected to export duty. Then in such a scenario, that IGST paid refund is not available. But yes, you can claim the refund of that inputs or input services which are utilized in exporting those products. Suppliers availing drawback in respect of central tax or claims IGST paid on supplier. Now here in this scenario, nowadays because the drawback and the earlier scenarios, what was happening, there was one higher drawback and one lower drawback. So if you are paying that, if you are claiming the benefit of the higher drawback, then you are not eligible for the refund of the exports of whatever exports you are doing. But if you are claiming the lower drawback, then you were eligible. But now, as on today, all the drawbacks mostly are at the same level, that is the lower drawback. So even if you claim the benefit of the lower drawback scheme, you are still eligible for the refund of your ITC or the IGST paid on your exports. Now, as you have seen earlier that you have to claim the refund within a particular time frame, within 2 years of the relevant date. If we see the first section, first slide where it was given that you have to claim refund within 2 years of the relevant date. Now, this relevant date is separate for each kind of transactions. So here I have given the list of the relevant dates. So first is, suppose if you are exporting goods out of India, where the refund of tax paid is available in respect of these goods, or you can say the inputs or input services, then the relevant date is that if the goods are exported by sea, the date on which the ship or the aircraft in which these goods are loaded leaves India, or if the goods are exported by land, then the date on which these goods pass the custom frontier. And if the goods are exported by post, then the date of dispatch of goods by the post office concerned to a place outside India. So these are the three scenarios that when the goods are exported. So if you want to claim the refund of either the IGST paid on those exports or of the ITC, which is utilized in making those exports, if you want to claim refund either of these two, okay, one thing you please keep in mind, in exports, you can claim either the refund of the IGST paid on the exports Or if the exports are done without the payment of IGST, that is under LUT, then you can claim the inputs and the refund of the inputs and the input services which you have utilized in making those exports. So this 2 years time frame will start immediately from the day the goods are exported. Matlab, it leaves the custom frontiers of India. The 2 years time limit starts from that date. This is generally the EGM date. EGM date is the Exports General Manifest date, which proves that this is the date when your shipment has left India. Whether in case of shipping, if it goes by ship or by air. Next is in the case of supply of goods regarded as deemed exports. Here, the relevant date will be the refund of tax paid available in respect of goods, the date on which the return relating to this deemed exports is furnished. So, when you are furnishing the 3B of that particular month, that post when you are filing that 3B, that date will be your relevant date. So, 2 years will be counted from that date after the filing of your 3B. In case of zero-rated supplies or goods or services or both to a special economic zone developer, so SEZ, if you are supplying to SEZ, then the refund of tax paid is available in respect of supplies, or you can claim the refund of the ITC which is involved in making those supplies. The due date of furnishing the return under section 39, that is again the same thing, the due date of furnishing 3B. After the furnishing of 3B, your relevant period of 2 years starts. So if you are filing SEZ supplies in the month of say June, or you can say May 24, your relevant date will start after filing of your 3B. That is either the 20th June, or if you are filing it before 20th June, which is the due date of filing of 3B, then the 2 years period will start from there. So you should be able to claim the refund before 20th June 26. So for deemed exports and SEZ, this is the scenario. In the case of services exported out of India, now earlier we have seen the goods exported out of India. Now for services, where you can claim either the same thing, where you can claim either the tax paid or the ITC, the date will be receipt of payment in convertible foreign exchange, where the supply of services has been completed prior to the receipt of this payment. So if the supply of services has been completed first and the payment is received later on, then the receipt of the date of this payment will be a relevant date. Or if the payment is received in advance, then the issue of invoice for those supply of services will be a relevant date. Now, in case where the tax becomes refundable as a consequence of any judgment, order, direction, then the date of communication of such judgment or order will be your relevant date. In case of refund of unutilized ITC for inverted rate duty structure, the due date will be the furnishing of your 3B. Now, in the case where tax is paid provisionally under this act, or the date of adjustment of tax after the final settlement assessment thereof, this is generally applicable in those cases where you are not sure how much tax you are supposed to pay, so you just pay it provisionally. For example, casual taxable dealers, where you have to provisionally pay the tax while taking the registration itself. So once when you are cancelling that registration in that particular state, after the adjustment, whatever is stayed back, that you can claim the refund. In case of a person other than the supplier, the date of receipt of goods or services by such person. So if the supplier is not claiming, but the recipient is claiming the refund, then the date of receipt of the goods. And in any other case, the date of payment of tax will be your relevant date. So this is what is about the relevant date. Now we move on to the different kinds of refund. First is the zero rated supply. Now, what do you mean by zero-rated supply? Zero-rated supply are of two types. One, exports, and other is the supply to SEZ. Both are called zero-rated supply. The export of goods means you take the goods out of India. Okay, so that is considered as exports under the GST. And what do you mean by export of services? Where the supplier should be located in India, the recipient should be located outside India, place of supply should be outside India, payment should have been received in foreign convertible exchange, and the supplier and the recipient should not be branches. So this is what is exports of services. So in this two scenario, export of goods and export of services, you can claim the refund either of the tax paid on that supply or the inputs and the input services which are utilized in making those supplies. So this is just a crux that how the refund is claimed, how this exports is done. Exports are done in two ways, either with payment of tax or the second is without payment of tax. This is zero rated supply overall, applicable to exports as well as SEZ supplies. If you are making the payment with payment of tax, then you have to pay IGST and you can claim the refund of this IGST amount. If it is an exports, then the customs will give you the refund once you file the details of your shipping bills in your GSTR1. And if it's an SEZ supply to SEZ supplier, then you have to claim the refund from the GST portal. Now, without payment of tax means you have to export or supply to SEZ under annuity, which is a bond, that is RFD 11. And you can claim the refund of the unutilized in ITC, which you have utilized in making this supplies. Refund claim procedure is very simple. For IGST paid exports, there you just have to file, as I said, the shipping bill details in your GSTR1. The custom officer will match the shipping bill details with what you have filed in your GSTR1. And once it is matched, they will issue the refund. So refund for exports for payment made with payment of tax, it is very simple and it is provided from the custom authorities. Okay. So just as I said, the other refunds of IGST paid on supplies to SEZ or deemed exports, this shall be processed from the GST portal. Now, if you say the refund by zero rated supplier of the inward supply, that is the unutilized ITC. For that, the formula is given in the Act, which says that the turnover of the zero rated divided by the adjusted total turnover into net ITC. Net ITC means what? The total ITC which you have used in your books. For example, you are claiming the refund for the full financial year 23-24. So net ITC will be your purchase register of that financial. Now you cannot claim if you are a 100% exporter, then you can claim the full ITC refund of whatever you have utilized in making those exports. But if you are you can say you are making exports also as well as you are making local supplies also, then the refund proportionate to exports is available. And that is the precise reason this formula is given, that the net ITC has to be bifurcated between the ratio of turnover of zero rated supply and your adjusted total turnover. Now, there are two definitions given here. What do you mean by turnover of zero rated supply of goods? And what do you mean by the turnover of zero rated supply of services? Now, for goods, they have said that whatever the FOB value is there in the shipping bill, that is the turnover of the zero rated supply of goods. Now, here, if you will see that the definition contains that 1.5 times the value of life, this particular has been struck down by the court. So, and hence, I am not deliberating on the same. At present, the needs to be that whatever value you have incorporated into the shipping bill as your FOB value or the value in your invoice, whichever is less, that will be the value of your goods and accordingly the turnover needs to be calculated. A turnover of zero rated supply of services. Now we all know that under the services, even when you receive the advance, you have to pay the tax. Okay, so when but not necessary you have provided the services. So how is the turnover of zero rated supply of services calculated? Now, zero rated supply of services is the aggregate of the payments received during that relevant period, say 23-24. Okay, so aggregate of the payment received during 23-24 for zero rated supply of services, and zero rated supply of services where supply has been completed and for which the payment has been received in advance in any period prior to the relevant period. So if you are filing the refund application for say 23-24, then whatever payments you have received for the supply of services in 23-24 and whatever payment you have received in advance prior to 23-24 for the services you have completed in 23-24, this is getting reduces by the advances you have received for which the services is not yet complete, or you may complete in 24-25. So how it will be? All the payments received, say 100 rupees. You have to add what is received in advance in the earlier period for which you have provided services now, say 20 rupees. So 120. At the same time, you have to less what you have received in advance, say 40 rupees you have received in advance for the services which you are going to provide in the next year. So minus 40. So 100 plus 20 minus 40. So 80 rupees will be your zero rate value of your zero rated supply of services. What do you mean by adjusted total turnover? Turnover in your state or union territory. So if you are claiming a refund for a particular export in the state of Maharashtra, then adjusted total turnover is the turnover of Maharashtra state only. You are not supposed to calculate the turnover of other states when you are applying the formula of refund. So in this turnover, you will say turnover in that state, excluding the turnover of services. Why the turnover of services should be excluded? Because the turnover of services as calculated above needs to be added. Okay, so when in your adjusted total turnover, you have to exclude the services, and then the turnover of services which you have calculated above, that needs to be added, and you have to exclude something. What you have to exclude? The value of exempt supplies. So if you are having any exempt supplies, that will not be included in your adjusted total turnover. And at the same time, if you are claiming refund under rule 4A, 4B, that also needs to be excluded. Now, what is this 4A, 4B? Now, you all must be aware that when a particular exporter is, is a merchant exporter, which will come ahead. So that time I will be telling you in detail. Relevant period, I have already explained what it is. Now, deemed exporter, what do you mean by deemed exporter? Whatever supplies you have received against any advance authorization license. Okay, in this scenario, if you are having an advance authorization license, then you can import without the payment of IGST. And this same goods has to be processed or used in the manufacture of goods which needs to be exported in a particular period. So that is the supply of goods by a registered person against this advance authorization license. On this, suppose I am having an advance authorization license. Okay. Now I am not able to import goods or export goods in a particular period. So what I will do, I will sell my advance authorization license to somebody else. This becomes a deemed export supply, and whatever tax I put on that goods, that refund can be claimed for by either that recipient or by me. Second is supply of capital goods against the EPCG scheme. So even when you are supplying goods against this EPCG scheme, then also it becomes a deemed exports. If you are a registered person and you are supplying to any export oriented unit, or if you are supplying to any technology park, that is electronic technology park or software technology park or biotechnology park, these are all deemed exports. Or if you are supplying gold against this gold is supplied by a bank against the advance authorization license, and all these are deemed exports. In this scenario, in under deemed exports, either the supplier can get the refund. Now here compulsory the supply will be tax paid. Okay, here there is no refund of any input tax credit or the inputs or input services which are used in making this supplies. So when you are making this supply, you are going to pay tax on that supply. So if you are making a supply of say 1 lakh to a software technology park, now you will be levying GST at the rate of 18% on that. And so 18,000 GST is levied on that supply. Now this amount of 18,000 can be claimed refund either by the supplier or by the recipient. Only thing is that if the supplier is claiming the refund, then the recipient cannot take the ITC of the same. Why? Because then the supplier, what he will do, he will raise an invoice of only 1 lakh on the recipient. The 18,000, although it is mentioned in the invoice, when the recipient makes the payment to the supplier, they will make the payment of only 1 lakh rupees. Okay, and that 18,000 which the supplier will pay to the government when the 3B is filed, that same 18,000 can be claimed as a refund by this supplier. Now, suppose the recipient is claiming the refund of that 18,000, then for the recipient, it becomes the input tax credit. So in such a scenario, the supplier should give a declaration that they have not claimed the refund of the tax paid. And when the recipient takes that input tax credit in their 3B, afterwards, it can claim the refund of that 18,000 rupees. Here, one thing is very clear that under the deemed exports, the goods do not go out of India and payment is either in Indian rupees or foreign convertible exchange, but the goods are in India. This is very important. These are the evidences, or you can say the procedural thing, which I will not go into detail. Otherwise, there are other refund categories which will be left out. This is available in the rules, in the form, and everywhere. But yeah, this is very important that to prove that yours is a deemed exporter, and jurisdictional tax officer should acknowledge that yes, this was a deemed export which has been done by the supplier. Now we come to merchant exporter, which I was earlier telling. What do you mean by merchant exporter? Merchant exporters are those exporters who are basically traders. It means they purchase the goods from manufacturers or some other trader and they export those same goods without doing any processing in there, except for some packing if they have to do. Otherwise, the same goods which they purchase, the same is exported. These are called merchant exporters. Now, in this scenario, what happens that merchant exporters have the benefit to procure the goods at a reduced rate of tax, which is called as 0.1%. So the supplier can supply the goods to these merchant exporters at 0.1% only. Even if the goods are rated at 28% or if the goods are rated at 18%, whatever, they can levy only 0.1% tax on that. And then this exporter can claim this 0.1% directly, the ITC, from the government portal. That is the rule 4A, 4B, which was there earlier in the formula. So when you are claiming this refund, then when you are claiming the exporter's refund of the input tax credit, then this turnover needs to be excluded because this refund you have already claimed. So then when you are claiming for the other exporter ka refund, then this needs to be excluded. Now there are some conditions for this merchant exporter. What it should be that the supply should be on a tax invoice, but the local supplier should issue a tax invoice to the exporter. The recipient has to export the goods within 90 days from the date of issue of invoice by the supplier. So if the supplier issues an invoice as on April 24, then the recipient has 90 days, that is 3 months time, that is April, May, June. So before 30th June, exports needs to be done. Then the recipient have to mention the GSTN and tax invoice number in the shipping bill. This is very important. So exporter, when he exports the goods in the shipping bill, the supplier's GSTN number, the tax invoice number, everything should be mentioned very clearly, because this is very important for claiming the refund of that 0.1%. Then the recipient, that the exporter should be registered with the Export Promotion Council. The exporter should place an order on the supplier. So पहले तो उसको purchase order देना होगा. They have to give a purchase order for procuring the goods at concessional rate, and then that copy needs to be provided to the jurisdictional officer of that supplier, that this purchase order has been provided by this particular exporter, that they have to provide the goods at concessional rate. Then the recipient has the options. Either it can directly move the said goods from the place of supplier to the customs authority or to the port, or if he feels that, see, sometimes what happens that the merchant exporter has to procure goods from 2 to 3, 4 suppliers. In such a scenario, it will have all the goods collected at a customs warehouse, and from there the goods are exported. But if it is from one supplier only, then very well, directly from the place of supplier, the goods directly goes to the port or the airport from wherever it is exported. Now the recipients, this already I have discussed. So in the above situation, recipient shall endorse the receipt of goods on the tax invoice and obtains the acknowledgement from the registered warehouse. Now suppose, just as I said, that if you are collecting the goods from various suppliers and then exporting it in a one container, then what happens that you will procure the goods from various supplier to the warehouse. In that scenario, they have to acknowledge that you have received these goods from this particular supplier and give that acknowledgement copy to the supplier. Okay. Also, you have to obtain the acknowledge from that warehouse keeper that yes, the goods have entered this warehouse, and all this needs to be submitted to the jurisdictional officer as well as to the supplier. Okay, then only you can go ahead and claim the refund of that 0.1%. Or you can export those goods further. Now the question is that when the supplier is selling the goods to the exporter at 0.1% or the concessional rate, but the supplier himself is procuring the material at full rate of tax. So they are procuring the material at suppose say 18%, 28%, but they are supplying to exporter at 0.1%. So they have lot of unutilized input tax credit in their credit ledger because it is not getting used. So can they claim refund of that electronic credit ledger? Yes. They will come under the scenario of inverted rate duty structure, which I will explain ahead now. These are the documents which are required for the refund claim, which this is also provided in the form of refund RFD01. So from there you can get everything, all the details. The refund has to be processed by the jurisdictional officers of individual exporters. Now we come to refund under inverted rate duty structure. This is very another kind of a refund. Now, what do you mean by inverted rate duty structure? Inverted rate duty structure means you are procuring the material, or your input side has higher rate of tax and your output side has lower rate of tax. So for example, just as we said earlier, that the exporter ko 0.1% may you are supplying, then your input side are having 18% or 28%, this becomes inverted rate duty. Also, if you are supplying, say, printed material, right? So in this scenario, the printed material, the outward tax is 5%, but at the same time, your inputs are either 12% or 18%. Then in such a scenario, also, you can claim the refund. Then in the shoe industry, the shoes are sold at 5% rate of GST, but the material which is used in making the shoes are procured at either 18% or 28% GST. Then in such a scenario, you have excess balance in your electronic credit ledger. Why? Because your ITC is more than your outward tax supply. So if we consider, like say 100 rupees supplies you have purchased, say leather, the GST on is either I think 18 or 20%. I'm not sure about the. Let us assume 18%. So 18 rupees input tax is there. Now this 100 rupees you are selling it at say 120 rupees. Okay, after the making charges and everything. So 120 पे 5% आपको tax भरना है. That becomes 6 rupees. Your input is 18 rupees, your outward is 6 rupees. So 12 rupees balance is there in your electronic credit ledger that you can claim the refund. Now, what is the crux in this inverted rate duty structure? The main, you can say lacuna, or you can say they have framed it, you are not getting the refund of input services. Okay. Capital goods तो किधर भी नहीं मिलता है, मतलब you're not getting the refund of the inputs of your capital goods in export refund also and inverted rate duty also. Inverted rate duty structure, you are getting the refund only of the inputs, only of the raw material which is used in the making of the finished product. So how is the formula for this inverted rate duty structure? It says that turnover of the inverted rate duty of supply of goods and services, both turnover पूरा चाहिए. Okay, into net ITC divided by the adjusted total turnover. That means that you are getting the refund of that input tax credit proportionate to the turnover of your inverted rate duty structure. This is which I said 120 rupees. Okay, so total suppose मेरा other supplies भी रहता है, total sales is say 500 rupees, then 120 upon 500. In that proportion, I will get the refund of the ITC. Minus tax payable on such inverted rate duty supply of goods and services. Okay, now why is there saying minus tax payable? Because when you are supplying the goods, you are paying that tax. 6 rupees tax we have paid, right? So that tax payable you have to subtract. Now this tax payable you have to subtract in some proportion. What proportion is that? Proportion is again net ITC divided by the ITC availed on inputs and inputs services. So it means that, see, net ITC jo hai na, if you will see the definition of net ITC, it is given down that net ITC shall mean the input tax credit availed on inputs during that relevant period. So suppose you are claiming the refund for the period of say May 24, whatever raw material inputs or other goods you have purchased to supply, make that shoes and to make the outward supply of that shoes, that only those inputs, that is the net ITC. So this only the inputs refund you can claim in proportion to your turnover of inverted rate duty structure. Now, you are not, you have used services also in making those shoes. You must have used some job work services, labor services in making those shoes. So there also input tax credit will be involved, because suppose 50 rupees का services लिया है आपने, okay, then 50 into 18%, so approximately 9 rupees is there. Which is there in your electronic credit ledger. So that 9 rupees ka you're not getting the refund. You are getting the refund only of that 18 rupees which is there on the inputs. So now what happens is total your net ITC is only 18 rupees. So from that 18 rupees you have to minus that 6 rupees. But this 6 rupees जो आप आउटवर्ड सप्लाई पे पे कर रहे हो उसमें जो आईटीसी इन्वॉल्व है, वॉट एवर आईटीसी इज इन्वॉल्व इन दिस 6 rupees consist of both inputs and input services, correct? So what they are saying that full 6 rupees you don't have to subtract. This 6 rupees you have to subtract only what is proportionate to the inputs. So that is the reason they have changed this definition. They say that tax minus tax payable into net ITC divided by the ITC availed on inputs and input services. So for example, here it will say that 120 rupees, right? What is your net ITC? 18 rupees. That divided by the turnover, say we believe that they have only this 120 rupees only the turnover of inverted rate duty. So this 120 into 18 minus that 6, but 6 needs to be divided between 18 and 27. So 6 into 18 by 27. So that will be whatever answer you get, that you have to subtract from that 18 rupees, that net ITC. And balancing will be your refund which you can claim. So if you say 6 divided by 18 into 27, that will be approximately 4 rupees. So from 18 you have to subtract 4 rupees, and 14 rupees you can claim the refund. That this is what is about inverted rate duty structure. Now in inverted rate duty structure, you have to file one statement 1A, wherein you have to give the details of all your inward side also, and you have to give the details of all your outward side also, so that you can claim the refund. Now, there are some restrictions in this inverted rate duty structure, that you are not allowed the refund of any woven fabrics. You are not allowed the refund of rail locomotives, railway coaches, railways or goods, trams, wagons. Then you are not allowed the refund of the services which are in item 5 of schedule 2, that is the construction services. Then corduroy fabrics, then noted netting of twine or ropes which are made up of textile materials. So in short, textile का refund inverted rate duty में allowed नहीं है. Construction services का inverted rate duty में allowed नहीं है. And the third is the railway locomotives and railway whatever coaches which you are suppose you are manufacturing, then you are not getting the refund of that inverted rate duty structure. What are the other miscellaneous which you need to take care of while filing the refund? Complete e-module of refund is available. Once you make the application, there are chances that there may be a defect memo which is issued by the officer. If they feel the proper documents are not there, if refund RFD 03 is issued, then you have to apply for the refund again. Then once you apply for the refund and it is accepted, they will issue RFD 02. Then if they feel there is still some discrepancy, they will issue a notice in RFD 08, which you have to reply. And then once you reply to that and the officer is satisfied, then he issues the refund order. He has a discrimination to decide how much refund to be issued to you. Either they will issue your full refund of whatever you have applied for, or they may issue part refund and part refund may be rejected. Okay, all the 3B and 1 needs to be filed for the period of which you are issuing the refund. Whatever refund is rejected will be recredited to your electronic credit ledger, and you can receive the refund of only those ITC which is reflected in 2A 2B, so that is very important. And if you are issuing the refund of appeal order, then that appeal order or the statutory order, whatever is there, needs to be submitted as a proof to substantiate your claim of refund. Now, suppose when you are claiming the refund of exports, and if your sales processes do not come to you within the time limit prescribed in FEMA, which is 9 months now, it is not 15 months now, it is 9 months, then you have to pay back that refund, whatever you have claimed. So when you are claiming the refund, it is very essential that you are getting the exports proceedings within 9 months of your exports. So friends, this is what was about the refund. I'm sure आप convinced हो गए and you do not want me to speak further. So thank you all for your patience hearing, and whatever you say, picture अभी बाकी है मेरे दोस्त.
अरे वाह, Wow, ma'am, that's the fantastic end, of the session. I would say from your end. Well, I think fundamentally sometimes we all really know the concept and all, but when it comes to practical application, claiming the refund, specifically the complications that the law has built around this inverted rate duty structure, etc., is really very complicated. And on behalf of WIRC, IDOL, ICI, I really present a very, very well deserved vote of thanks
Thank you.
for having such an insightful session and enabling all the participants to kind of brush through and even learn more about how this refund mechanism actually works. So thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much. I think we will move on with the next session. Can I request CA Deepti Modi ma'am to introduce our speaker for the next session, CA Priya Madreja?
Yeah. Good evening. Good evening, all. It's my pleasure to introduce CA Priya Madrecha, who is, along with qualified chartered accountant, is an company secretary with an All India rank, and she's an ex-KPMG. She's currently the Chief Strategy Officer at Madrecha Solutions. Madrecha Solutions has been recently bestowed with the prestigious award of Best Tax Automation Tool of the Year for their automated tax litigation product, which fetches for invoices. In her work experience, she has handled assignments involving fund structuring and tax implications of international jurisdictions like Singapore, Mauritius, Netherlands, among others. Her expertise extends to navigating and complying with the complex cross-border legal and tax regimes, ensuring seamless and compliant operations across different countries. Coming from the same fraternity, she possesses a deep understanding of the challenges commonly faced by CA practitioners, and this insight is an instrument in her role at Madreja Solutions, a leading software company dedicated to providing specialized services to CA firms. Her passion for automation and efficiency drives her work, particularly in engagements related to data transformation. She has played a pivotal role in aiding over 2,000 CA firms in successfully transforming and transitioning their business from being people-oriented to system-oriented, and thereby enhancing operational efficiency and effectiveness. In her current profile, she is also specializing in data privacy law. She possesses natural flair for writing and has contributed numerous articles for various newspapers and magazines, both national and international. She is a regular author for our Institute magazine and various other websites. She is currently a part of committee of members in industry and business at the Institute. And she's earlier worked for you, women members, Excellence Committee. Welcome, Priyaman, and over to you.
Thank you, Dipti ji, for the wonderful introduction. Yashaswini is indeed a great initiative. We have had wonderful speakers and sessions in the previous month. Yashaswini, the brainchild of CA Preeti ji, under Women Members and Excellence Committee, is aimed at empowering and enlightening women chartered accountants. Special thanks to her for this initiative. Moving forward to my topic, let me share my screen. So is my screen visible?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Okay, and voice is also proper, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so let's begin. So in the next 1 hour, I'll be taking you through work and time management for Office with Technology. A small disclaimer. A small disclaimer before we begin. Some of the solutions that we will be discussing today are commercially available solutions. So please use a professional skepticism while selecting any of the solution. In today's session, we will be covering the way of thinking, practical solutions to the problems that we face, data and insights that will help in better decision making rather than relying on hunch, and finally tips and tricks. These tips and tricks we can start implementing immediately. The ultimate objective of today's session is to shift our practice from being people-oriented to system-oriented. This will ensure that we scale up our practice in spite of a constant churn in team members. Plus, we need to ensure that the shift is smooth with minimum disruption to the existing work. So whenever we implement any new solution, we need to take care that our existing work is disrupted in the least manner as possible. So getting over there is not an overnight journey. There are multiple milestones involved. We need to chalk out a long-term plan, assign a date to each milestone, and most importantly, track the progress of each milestone. This will give encouragement and motivation to team members to work for the next milestone. Here, today, discussing about 4 maturity levels and how when we achieve these levels, it will automatically shift our practice from being people-oriented to system-oriented. Let's begin by doing this small exercise. So when you go to office tomorrow, ask your team members this simple question. What is the count of, say, GST returns to be filed on a monthly basis? This is a very simple question. So by asking this question, we are trying to get 2 answers. How quickly they are able to answer, and the second, what is the source of their data? If they are answering by relying on some data, or are they answering by simply guessing the number? If they are simply guessing the number, then there is a problem and there are high chances that they might be wrong. If they are relying on some data, then we need to see what kind of data are they looking at. How much confidence do we have on that data set, and how frequently is that data set being updated? Because data keeps on changing, that is obvious. How frequently do we update the data, and how our team member has access to that updated data? Say if they are looking at a data set, it could be Excel, diary, or any software. If they are looking at the same data set and the answer is same for all the team members, then you are already at the first level of maturity. Do this exercise tomorrow in your office and see whether they are able to give you the same answer by looking at some data, or are they not able to give you the same answer, or are they able to give you the same answer but that is not based on any data, just by hunch or a simple guess. So moving further, we have 4 maturity levels, wherein if we reach these 4 maturity levels, we can say that we have successfully transformed our business from being people-oriented to system-oriented. So first level of maturity is all about having a single source of data, that data being updated as and when the status changes. I am not mentioning the word real-time basis, it should be updated. As and when something has changed, that data should be updated. And are we able to draw some reports out of it? Let's take a super simple basic example of a diary, which worked perfectly fine around a decade or 2 decades back. Sir used to have a diary in his office. Only he used to update in that diary. There was no backup, no remote location working. So everything was working perfectly fine. All the data used to be with the sir. But for that system to work, there were 2 requirements. First of all, there should be a small team and all team members should be working from office. That was true maybe a decade back. But currently we work in a scenario where not necessary that all team members will be working from office. And even if they are working from office, if we have a larger team, how are we supposed to take care of all the stuff in a simple diary? Now, if you are say implementing it, What would be the replacement of diary? The simplest way to implement it would be Excel sheets or Google Sheets, which are there on cloud. Every team member can update it as and when the status changes. This is what if you are currently doing, then you are at the first level of maturity. Then you need to move to the next level. So next level bird's eye view basically implies that when you ask your team members multiple questions and you need simultaneous answers to that questions, you basically need a dashboard which will answer all the important questions that you ask. Matlab, I am asking some questions to my team members, say 5 questions, and I want all those answers to all those questions in a simple table or dashboard or chart, anything. If I have to reframe it in simple word, bird's dashboard, bird's eye view basically means that show me all the things that need my attention. I do not want to know everything that is going on in my organization. Show me the 5 things that need my immediate attention. So this thing should be presented to me in a tabular format so that I know I have to take action on this thing. Plus, we need to capture audit log. Why is this audit log required? So audit log feature is basically required to have confidence on your data set. As the team grows, this feature is a must have. For smaller teams, it is still fine. We can manually track the changes that each team member makes, or because we know that which team member has the authority to make which change. But as and when our team grows, this control becomes difficult. And that's when we compulsorily need this audit log feature. I'll give you an example. Say someone marks a particular GST return as being filed. We believe that it is filed, and later we come to know that this has actually not been filed. Then whom do we held accountable for this? Because audit log should capture both the aspects. Who made the change and when the change was made. If something, status of some task in your organization is changing, there are 2 aspects to it. First, who is making the change to that task and when is that change being made? So these are few screenshots of the system that we currently use in our office to track things. When I was talking about bird's eye view, this kind of compliance dashboard gives me a bird's eye view of what all things are happening in my office. So over here, you can see few numbers. These numbers are all clickable numbers and these are color coded. So color have been mentioned at the top. So if I have to explain it with an example, for the month of April, there are 61 GST returns which have been completed. 4 are still going on, 2 have been ignored, and 9 are stuck. So if I want more details of these GST returns that are still going on, 4 returns, I have to click on these numbers and it will simply present it to me. And if they are stuck, say 9 returns, when I click on this, why are they stuck? There has to be some reason why the client's return has been stuck. Maybe he has not provided us the data, or maybe he's not making tax payment. Anything could be the reason, but to know that reason, we need to have a data first. So this is for the entire organization. If I am the owner or the proprietor or the partner, I would like to see for the entire organization. But say in larger organizations where there are multiple teams involved, and as a manager of one particular team, I would be interested in knowing the data relating to only my team. This kind of reporting capabilities helps me to see data relating to only my team, depending on my position. If I am a partner, I'll see it for the entire organization. If I am a manager, I'll see it for my team. I'll be concerned with the data relating to my team. And if I am a junior team member, then I am concerned with just what things I am doing and what is the progress of that thing. Based on the level, we need a dashboard for the entire office or maybe just for the team or for themselves. This is especially helpful for managers who like to see data relating to only themselves. This is the kind of calendar each and every team member needs to have to plan things on a day-to-day basis. Let's understand this with the help of an example. These are again color-coded. Say if I am on the 2nd of the month. So I can see that tomorrow I have 5 tasks which has due date. If I am planning to take a leave in the next week, so I already know in advance that there are on the 7th, there is one task which has due date, 2 tasks which have target date, and 1 task which is stuck. So I need to make sure that either I complete this task or work before I go on leave, or I have to assign it to some other team member so that the work is not hampered. And considering the current scenario, where we already have huge penalties for not adhering to due dates, even a single day lapse proves costly to us as an organization. So this kind of calendar, I believe, is important for each and every team member. Nowadays, we have this in mobile apps as well. So while coming to office in the morning, team members can see their calendar, what all things they need to do for the day, and accordingly plan their entire day. This was all about bird's eye view. I tried to explain it with few examples, and we discussed the second aspect, that was audit log. That we need both aspects, when the change was made and who made that change. So we currently track it with this kind of dashboard. Say if any task is changed from going to completed, who has made that change? It was done by Dhanashri. When it was done on 26th October, team member has changed the due date, or team member's assignment or non-assignment to a particular task. Everything can be tracked over here in this kind of audit logs. Due date has been changed, team member has been assigned, Dhanashri is assigned to a new work, Smriti is assigned. So in the first 2 levels of maturity, we were discussing about task, and we were tracking only at the task level. The task should be completed, who is completing it, when it is getting completed. So as our organization moves up the maturity ladder, we'll have to divide it into all the more further sections and ensure that each and every section has perfection. What I mean by this is, say until now we are tracking only at the task level. When we move further, we will be tracking each milestone of each task, where we have reached a particular task in order to complete it. For example, say for GST returns, we have 4 stages. We can divide it into 4 stages, like receiving data from the client, doing accounting entries in our office, maybe tax computation and calculation, and finally filing the return. So these are the 4 stages involved in doing one GST return, filing of one GST return. So as I move up, I will not just track whether GST return has been filed or not. I will track where is the level of that return filing, whether I have received data from the client, or data is received but it is stuck, that accounting entries are not done in my office, or maybe if everything is done, just the filing is pending. So dividing and tracking it will come once you have achieved the basics. And when we talk of target dates, so what we mean over here is that we always have due dates, which are set either by the department or the client themselves. So we need to have target date as well for our office. Instead of finishing the work on the due date, we should set an internal target date by which we should aim to complete the work. And how will you set a target date? For example, you can remove last 6 months data for a particular client and track that data, that when is data received for any particular client. So this is the screen I'm talking about. In our office, we are traveling like this. So we get this inverse table. Over here, I can quickly check for how many tasks accounting data has been received. Out of the data received, say for 50 clients, for how many have I done the accounting work? Say I have done accounting work for 40 clients. Out of the 40 clients for whom I have done accounting, a return tax computation has been done for 35, and finally return has been filed only for 33. So we can see the backlog at each stage rather than the overall just completion of the task. This kind of dashboards help us to identify action points. This is another dashboard. This kind of dashboards where we can capture the stages on a line chart will be helpful. This helps to clearly visualize what action is to be taken at what point. Say if I see this data call to client is made at a very early stage. If you see this green line, so at a very early period, I'm making call to clients for giving the data. But if you see these red lines of record received, clients are gradually giving the records over a period of time. Day one, if I'm making call, I'm not getting all the data on day two. They are taking their own time to give the data. So this will help me in better planning, that irrespective, even if I make the call on first, I am not receiving, in majority of the cases, I'm not receiving data before say 5th or 6th. So I need to accordingly assign my team members, plan my time accordingly, that I am aware that 1st to 5th, I'll not be having any data of the client. So if I have to do with accounting, I'll be bogged down by work between 6th and 10th itself. Then at 4th level of maturity, we ask direct pinpointed questions to our team. By pinpointed questions, you will be directly asking them, like, say, you know that there are 50 GST returns for this month. So out of the 50, for how many clients tax computation is pending? When I ask this question, I'm asking direct pinpointed questions. I am not asking them that how many returns have been filed out of the 50. Directly, I am asking questions at stage level. This kind of pinpointed questions you'll be able to ask only if you have reached a certain level of maturity. And when we talk about analytics, we mean that how fast our team is able to complete each milestone. We discussed earlier that we need to track progress at each milestone. But for tracking that progress, some mechanism has to be in place. And we need to track. For example, say if I have to explain it with an example, what is the average time from receiving the data till the tax computation? Average time that my office is taking from actually receiving the data from the client till the tax computation stage. This is what I mean when I talk about analytics. Or maybe more impactful analysis will be for a particular client, on which date does he usually submits the data. So I'll be able to answer this only if I have past records. Over the past 6 months, I can evaluate and judge on which date is usually this client submitting the data. Again, moving further, it would be average time that is taken by each team member from receiving the data till the actual completion of computation. So initially we were discussing about what is the average time that our office is taking from receiving data till the completion of computation. Now we are talking about average time each team member is taking from receiving the data till the completion of computation. So we are asking direct pinpointed questions to our team members. We are calculating their efficiency, judging how efficient our team is as a whole. And when you compare this with each team members' records, when you compare this, imagine the intelligence level at which we are operating. Of course, this will not happen in a day, and there are level 5 and level 6 maturity as well. But I believe that any organization who has achieved even 4 levels maturity have poised themselves for a higher growth in the long run. 5 and 6 would not be required. So these are some of the examples. Just to track, we were discussing about pinpointed question and analytics. Say if you see this data is for a particular period from 1st July till 17th July, approx 15-17 days data. And when I see this first candidate, Ashwini, At the beginning of this period, she had 165 work assigned to her, which are still pending. 89 were assigned during this period. She completed 65. So at the end of this period, she still has 189 pending. And when she has to get a list, she'll simply click on the number. She'll get a list of all those pending work, pending tasks. This is at the whole organization level, that for Ashwini, 165 tasks are open. But which are these 165 tasks? If I have to bifurcate it further into accounting, maybe GST return, income tax return, then this kind of dashboard is helpful. Here I can see open tasks with each team member basis the services that we provide to our clients. For accounting, you can see she has 63 clients for whom she has to do accounting. The 63 is again a clickable number. Currently, if we see this table, we get to know that the second employee, Dhanashri, she is very much occupied with work. And if anything new comes up, so instead of assigning it to her, we should assign it to some other team member who is less occupied. This will ensure that the work is completed on time. Because if we assign it to Dhanashri, it will just go on piling up because she is already bogged down by work. Yeah. So when we talk about system features, what we mean by managed sharing is that we need to share the engagement details with the team members who are working and reviewing. But at the same time, this access has to be on a need to know basis. What I mean by need to know is that every team member need not have all the client details. They should be given only that much details which are required for them to complete this task. Having a bird's eye view of the entire practice is critical to identify assignments requiring my attention, like we discussed earlier. Which are the tasks which need my attention? All the important information that require my action has to be presented to me in a single dashboard. Single source of truth again connects back to managed sharing, because it is important that you provide team member the information that they need for completing any particular work. If you do not provide them with the right set of information, then they'll start creating their own information, and which is very harmful for us as an organization, because even a little mistake comes costly to us. Then deadline chasing. In our profession, due date is always set by either the department or the client. So if it is some written filing or something, then the due dates are preset by the department or the government. And if there is some other work like project report or anything, then the client gives us a due date that this is the date by which I need this report. So we are not at the liberty to set our own due dates. Hence, it is critical that each and every team member needs to know which task should be completed before which date. I, as a partner, will have an overview of the entire organization, but respective team members need to have this kind of dashboards to have an overview of their assigned work. They should know that tomorrow I need to complete 10 tasks. Tomorrow is the due date. So before tomorrow day end, I have to complete this 10 tasks. And when I see, I'll see, okay, tomorrow is the due date, 100 things are pending. This 100 needs to be completed by all the team members together. The point that I'm trying to make over here is that if your team members do not have visibility on the due date, then you will be chasing the team members instead of them chasing the due dates. It is always better that the team members themselves chase the due date, and you do not have to be behind them that, oh, tomorrow is the due date, you need to sit and work, you need to complete this. So moving further, what is this? Any guesses? This is Formula One pit stop. So during the course of the race, the car comes to a halt and the entire fuel tank is refilled and all the tires are changed. So any guesses how much time does this entire activity take? We need to refill the entire fuel tank, change all the 4 or 6 tires. This entire activity is done in milliseconds. Milliseconds. This is what I call as extreme level of team collaboration. Imagine the efficiency level at which this team as a whole might be working. Each and every person is aware which tire they need to do and what they need to do. For even a single tire, we can see that there are 3 people. So each and everybody is aware which screw one needs to pull, what one needs to hold, what one needs to do. Similarly, we need a system in our office where everybody knows what exactly needs to be done and more importantly, when it needs to be done. It is important that each and every team member is aware of his actionable and at the same time, they should be working in a team to ensure that there is no repetition of work. Because repetition of work proves costly to an organization. You are losing man hours, you are losing efficiency if there is repetition of work. It is important that team members have visibility on the work expectations of not just themselves, but also of other team members. Some believe that maybe when you assign some work to particular team member, you do not want other team member to know that he has been assigned this work. But I do not believe in that ideology. And in fact, I would recommend that you keep transparent actionables for all the team members. This will be helpful in the long run. This can inculcate healthy competition between the team members. When we track the time taken for a particular assignment, say for completing this GST return, I have taken total 5 hours, right from receiving the records, doing accounting entries, tax computation, making payment, and finally filing the return. This activity took me 5 hours. But how will you judge whether these 5 hours are less or more or the right time that should have been taken? Efficiency tracking will only be possible if you compare something with a previous data. You need to compare this 5 hours with the last period's time taken. If there is an increase, if there is a reduction in time, it is definitely in the right faith because we do achieve DMU, diminishing marginal utility. But if there is an increase in the time, there can be 2 scenarios. Either your team member has become inefficient, in which case you need to provide right training to the team member that they take the required amount of time and not the excess time. Or the second scenario could be the client's work has considerably increased as compared to the last year. So if the client's work has increased, then this calls for a revision in our fees as well. We need to charge client the higher amount and we have data, and if we have data and statistics in front, we can definitely charge them higher amount. We can tell them that, see, boss, you can see over here. लास्ट ईयर में आपकी अकाउंटिंग एंट्रीज में 4 फाइल्स थी, वो करने में हमको 3 घंटे लगते थे, अभी आपने 6 फाइल्स दे दिए, वो करने में 5 घंटे लग रहे हैं. So your work has definitely increased. My staff is consuming more time. You need to compensate me for the same. And like we discussed earlier, we should celebrate the achievement of each milestone. This is very important because this gives encouragement and motivation to the team members to work better. For celebrating achievement of milestone, you need to know a proper mechanism needs to be in place. सबसे पहले तो आप ट्रैक ही कैसे करोगे कि आपका milestone achieve हुआ है? You need a proper mechanism to evaluate the progress made on a timely basis. ठीक है, this was all theory now. All said and done. हमने सब बात कर ली कि we need multiple things, 4 levels of maturity here. There are some system features which you need to take care of. Now coming to the actual implementation. All said and done. Now coming to actual implementation, what do you think will be the most difficult part in setting up a system and making it successful? Is it technology, cost, time that will be consumed? or your HR, the most difficult aspect is the human angle. Trust me, if you do not have your team members on board, अगर वो आपके साथ नहीं है, you cannot implement a new system successfully. Staff reluctance इतना ज्यादा होता है कि eventually you give up. Starting में you can force them to use any particular system. आप use करोगे हफ्ता, 2 हफ्ता, maybe 1 month, 2 months, it will go on. But eventually, if they are not in favor of it, they will just give up on using the system and you will have no recourse rather than relying to their wishes. So what can we do? How do we overcome this human angle HR problem which every organization face? Agar team size आपका 5 people का है, तो भी you have this issue, and even if you have 50 people, तो भी you have this issue. So it cannot be completely eliminated कि HR की आपको कभी कोई problem होगी ही नहीं, but it just can be overcome. You can overcome this resistance to change. There is always a resistance to change through proper coaching, teaching, knowledge sharing, training. You will be more successful in implementing a solution if you have your team on board with you. You need to mentally prepare your team whenever you implement any new solution. कोई solution आप जैसे implement कर रहे हो, if suppose you are implementing a solution जहाँ पे कल से वो required है to fill in time sheets. So you need to prepare them कि this filling of time sheets ये judge करने के लिए नहीं है कि whether they are working 8 hours a day or not. अगर 8 घंटे से 1 घंटा भी उनका कम हुआ तो you'll be deducting salary for that. No, it is not for that purpose. Even if they are working for 6 effective hours, charge the time to the right client. Purpose ये है कि chargeability miss नहीं होना चाहिए. If we have data, कितने client पे कितने hours spend किए, तो we are in a position to question the client, to negotiate with the client. Purpose ये है कि कोई भी billable काम unassigned नहीं जाए. Then moving further to task tracking. Each and every work that we do needs to be tracked to ensure that there is no revenue leakage and we get holistic timesheet of the entire organization. भले ही वो छोटा सा छोटा काम हो, like preparing any certificate आप client को लिए 15G, 15H कुछ भी बना के दे रहे हो, but even that needs to be tracked in your office. उतना time उस client के लिए charge करो, even if it took you 15 minutes to just complete the work for that client. It is quite possible कि 15 minutes one time लगा, and that thing you are doing for this client every week. Then imagine the time that you are spending for this small work of that client. Give a unique identifier for each task. How do you identify each task? There has to be some unique number or alphabet so that you can see. And whenever you divide a task into smaller tasks, do it only if it is required. Unnecessarily do not create smaller tasks. It will mentally be a pressure on you that, oh, I have 100 things to do. जबकि एक्चुअली में आपके टास्क है मे बी 40 ही, आपने उसको अननेसेसरी स्मॉलर पार्ट्स में डिवाइड कर दिए. So that's what when we were talking कि milestone important है, stages का concept is important. Client master basically implies कि you need to have right set of client data at the right place. आपके पास data organized ही नहीं है client का. So whenever any particular client, Mr. A, visits your office and he has 3 to 4 other files with him, maybe उसकी wife का है, उसकी company का है वगैरह. So all this data should be organized in a proper place कि when he visits your office, he sits with you for discussing something. You are in a position to discuss all the data relating to all his family members. They belong to one group. So in India, the concept of group is very much prevalent. We have usually 3 to 4 family members belonging to the same group जिनका हम काम करते हैं. So when we discuss it on a holistic, it's a savior of time as well for us. Plus हम revenue वगैरह wise भी ज़्यादा generate कर सकते हैं. Then coming to timesheets, as I mentioned earlier as well, the purpose of timesheet is not to judge how many hours you have spent in the office. The purpose is each and every work that we do for our client has to be noted down. It should not go unnoted. charge hours to the task, every team member, this will be successful only if every team member follows it. अगर ऐसा है कि ये सिर्फ आपने जूनियर लेवल पे इम्प्लीमेंट किया है, सीनियर्स आर नॉट फॉलोइंग इट, दे आर नॉट filling in the timesheet, then actually में it makes no sense. Because if you see junior का time तो फिर भी कम costly as compared to senior का time. अगर junior 4 घंटे entries करने में लगा रहे हैं, and if your senior is taking 1 hour to review that work, and if he is not charging that 1 hour, maybe it is quite possible कि वो junior के 4 घंटे के बराबर उसकी rate है senior की. So each and everything has to be tracked at each and every level. Maybe even if I as a partner, I am doing something for that client, even I need to charge my time because my chargeability will be higher as compared to my team members. So this will give me a holistic view. And अगर मैं time sheets वगैरह fill करा रही हूँ, and if I know that in future if I'm not going to use it, then it's just waste, I feel, to make your team members fill the time sheet. Timesheets are relevant only if you are going to use it in the future. You are drawing some reports out of it, making some analysis, like what is the time that your team members have spent in the current period as compared to the last period. You have to take action on the basis of timesheet. Only then make it a compulsion to fill timesheets. This is one of the example I was talking about. Say for the accounting work of Mr. D, I was taking around 16, 17 hours 4 years back, and now I'm spending 40 hours. So there is a problem over here. Again, there are two reasons as we discussed. Maybe my team members have efficiency has reduced. They are taking double the time to complete the same work, or maybe the work of the client has actually increased so that it is taking me double time. I can call him and show, see boss, your work was taking me 20 hours 3 years back. Now it is taking me 40 hours. आपका time बढ़ गया है. मुझे मेरे staff को ज़्यादा deploy करना पड़ रहा है. It's time that we talk about a revision in fees. And this increase in revenue again connects back to efficiency tracking, जो हमने पहले discuss किया था. Wherein in efficiency tracking we need to see जो आपने time charge किया है to the previous period, जो अभी आपको लग रहा है time as compared to time for the same task you have taken in the previous period. Then again, if you track your attendance of team members वगैरह, तो you can see that अगर आपके पास at the month end when you sit, all this tracking will be relevant only if you are going to take any action based on this tracking. Over you can see that this Bhuti, she has been constantly coming late to office. Every day on an average basis, her login time is after 11 only. So I can call her and directly ask her pinpointed question ki like every staff is coming more or less on time. Why are you late on a daily basis? What is the problem? Engagement letter is relatively important in today's time. Few years down, before, if you ask me, maybe even 5 years back, before the COVID era, there were not many firms. छोटे clients के लिए हम engagement letter शायद sign करते भी नहीं थे. Engagement letter concept was prevalent only for companies. But as and when how times are changing, it is recommended that you sign engagement letter for every work that you do for your client. This engagement letter legal protection तो आपको देता ही है. Something say 2 years down the line, some things go wrong. So you have a protection. The scope is clearly defined. The risk is clearly defined. The compensation is clearly defined. You are positioning yourself in a better position if you sign the engagement letter with all your clients. Now, how do you decide fees for a particular client? Normally, what traditional CA firms, small size CA firms is followed, they have a fixed rate. Like for GST return, I'm charging 5,000 rupees monthly. This is the rate for all the clients. But I believe that you should not have a common standard rate for all the clients. The level of work that you do for each and every client is different. The level of complexities involved for each and every client is different. The time that you spend for each and every client is different. What is the time estimate that you, before deciding on fees, you need to see some multiple aspects like what is the time that you are estimating for this period? Say if I'll be spending 10 hours for this client for this work. Now, what was if it is a recurring work like GST returns, income tax returns, which happen every year or every month, then I'll have a data of how much time did I previously invested. I am estimating 10 years. Previously, I have taken 12 hours. What is the recovery rate of each team member? For doing this work, whether am I going to deploy junior team members or senior needs to be involved or a partner needs to be involved, this will matter a lot in deciding the fees. Junior team members' time is not comparable to that of a manager or a partner. Accordingly, fees needs a revision. This is again the same example that we were discussing. When we talk about billing, so this is coming to billing, it is important to analyze the profitability as well. It is not just कि जैसे हम client के लिए काम किए जा रहे हैं, वो complete हो रहा है, हम bill कर रहे हैं उसको. Is that work which we are actually doing for a client profitable to us? Each and every engagement which we chartered accountants do, we do it with the intention of getting some profit out of it. Nobody of us is doing complete CSR activity कि हाँ चलो जो चल रहा है वो चले जा रहा है. We'll keep on doing our work भले ही हमको profit हो रहा है या नहीं हो रहा है. 1 second. Yeah. So when we talk about billing, it is important to analyze profitability as well. Each and every engagement that we do, we are doing it with the intention of getting profit. All engagements combined together. When we analyze this, हमें दो चीजें इसमें analyze करनी है. सबसे पहले तो एक task level, particular task level पे वो profitable है या नहीं. कई बार हो सकता है कि जैसे आप क्लाइंट का कुछ एक काम करते हो वो आपके लिए प्रॉफिटेबल नहीं है. यू नो कि आपका जितना उसमें एक्सपेंस चला जाएगा, यू आर हार्डली गेटिंग एनीथिंग आउट ऑफ इट. बट फिर भी हम वो काम करते हैं उस क्लाइंट के लिए बिकॉज ऑफ अवर लॉन्ग टर्म रेपो, या बिकॉज हमें पता है कि उसके जो दूसरे काम हम कर रहे हैं वो मोर प्रॉफिटेबल है, एंड दिस वन नॉन प्रॉफिटेबल वर्क कॉम्पेंसेट हो जाएगा दूसरे प्रॉफिटेबल वर्क से. ये सब जजमेंट कॉल्स आप तभी ले पाओगे व्हेन यू हैव द एग्जैक्ट डेटा. Some engagement may be not profitable at task level, but all the engagements combined together, it should be profitable at the client level. या कुछ केस में it is highly possible कि वो client level पे भी profitable नहीं है. जैसे कि when we were talking about a family case, there are 4 members. Maybe for Mr. A की wife के लिए जो आप काम कर रहे हो, 3-4 चीजें कर रहे हो, maybe you are filing income tax return for her, doing some certification work for her, वो कुछ भी आपको profitable नहीं है. But Mr. A ka group as a whole is profitable for you. This kind of data is important for you to take a informed decision whether you should actually be doing that work or not. For this, we will compare expected billing, estimated time वगैरह क्या है. I'll not go much into statistics that everybody is aware of कि profit कैसे derive करना है. Okay. So fee collection tips. डिपेंडिंग ऑन दी वर्क, आप अगर मंथली वर्क कर रहे हो जीएसटी रिटर्न्स वगैरह, तो डोंट ट्रैक द फी कलेक्शन टिल द एंड ऑफ द ईयर, की पूरे साल का पूरे फाइनेंशियल ईयर का आप एक साथ कलेक्ट करोगे. अकॉर्डिंगली बिल क्लाइंट्स एट कंप्लीशन ऑफ ईच माइलस्टोन, और मेक श्योर कि यू आर गेटिंग रेवेन्यू आल्सो एट कंप्लीशन ऑफ ईच माइलस्टोन. देन कुछ सर्विसेज होती है उनको आप क्लासिफाई करना चाहिए, पीरियोडिक है. एंड मे बी इट इज रिकमेंडेड दैट आप बिलिंग एक्टिविटी वीकली करो इंस्टेड ऑफ मंथली. Month is also a very long period of time in today's time where we are doing multiple things in just a single day. So maybe even if you devote 2 hours of your time on a weekly basis, you should be on track with your billing aspect. And after all, billing is very crucial for any organization. Unless you receive amount, unless you receive revenue, none of the things that you do will make any sense. So this was about office management in general, कि आपको क्या चीजें करनी चाहिए, how you need to do this, how you need to divide it into stages वगैरह. In the next couple of slides, let's discuss few more aspects relating to communication. So when I say this communication, it means both आपका internal team communication as well as external communication with your team members. I guess majority, when I take a poll, I guess we do not have a poll mechanism in this seminar. So if I would have taken a poll, 90% of us would say that we are using WhatsApp as a means of communication. but that is a strict no. Do not ever use WhatsApp as a means of your main communication. Main communication channel WhatsApp नहीं हो सकता है. थोड़ा कुछ follow up वगैरह आप ले रहे हो तो उसके लिए even I agree कि these days WhatsApp is a better means. आपको जल्दी reply मिलता है as compared to phone calls या कुछ. इधर हमको दिखाई देता है सामने वाला under obligation हो जाता है. We can see the red blue tick icon, read icon, where we know सामने वाले ने message reply किया, उसको भी feeling आती है कि अरे यार मैं reply नहीं करूंगा तो that person will know that I'm reading the message and not responding. But never makes your personal, because WhatsApp क्यों recommended नहीं? If team members are using WhatsApp, it is not possible कि वो लोग personal chats वगैरह नहीं देखेंगे. If they take phone in their hand, they are bound to see many of the groups that they are in. This will be loss of your productive time. It is not suited for office communication. और बहुत सारे larger groups रहेंगे जिसमें multiple chats आप एक same group में किए जा रहे हो. 10 team members are responding in the same group. It will lead to total chaos. अगर आपको कितनी बार तो ऐसा भी possible है कि you'll have to go to all the top search करने के लिए कि क्या क्या चीजें हो रही है और कैसे हो रही है. You will have lost control over that. So for communication, what I usually recommend and what we do is, for team communication, Discord is the best way. आपकी internal team के लिए भी Discord better है, and maybe even if you want to connect to outside clients, Discord का free version itself is sufficient कि उसमें आपके मतलब basic features cover हो जाते हैं जो आपको use होते हैं day to day office में, जो आपको WhatsApp provide करता है, जैसे groups बनाना है, channels बनाना है, file sharing, document sharing वगैरह. And other options that we have is Microsoft Teams, Slack वगैरह obviously है. But these are if you have a higher team and you can afford it, because these solutions are usually chargeable. Teams है, Slack है. And few points on why should we prefer this communication channels as compared to WhatsApp, which we already discussed. Now that was about the WhatsApp या जो हम phone communication बोलते हैं. What about email communication? It's not a very बोलते ना disturbing कि many of us still use the traditional Gmail. Gmail हम use करते हैं for client communication, but उसमें tracking mechanism is not so good. If you have to move further, if you are going up the maturity scales, you need to make a change to this common practices as well. So for instead of common office email, Gmail से आप कर रहे हो, you have no track कि किसने क्या किया है वगैरह, किधर क्या reply है. Multiple threads are being created. For this Freshdesk है, Zoho है, Zendesk है, all these are quite good. And Freshdesk to be personally used, so I can say for Freshdesk that the free version of Freshdesk जो होता है basic offices के लिए, that itself has all the features. आप track कर सकते हो, जैसे एक single email से reply जाएगा, but which team member has made the reply. Gmail में you have this problem, common office email ID है, 4 months down the line कुछ गड़बड़ हुई, you have no clue which team member replied to that. If you try to catch hold of anybody, whom will you hold? Team members will flatly refuse कि नहीं ये तो मैंने reply नहीं किया था, इसने किया था वगैरह. Freshdesk में you can create agents, you can track कौन से team member ने reply किया है, कब reply किया है. Plus आपको कुछ comments डालना है internal team members के review के लिए, which client should not see. जैसे कि client is negotiating for a fees over email. I have replied to that client and I am putting internal comment for my team member कि okay, we want this client. अगर इसको close करना पड़े तो give 10% discount. So my internal team members can see this, but client will not be able to see this. So this is the mechanism that we need as we grow. Okay, so that was it. So if we have any questions, we can take it. You can post it in the chat section, or maybe if Dipti ji, we can open it to the larger audience for asking questions.
Yeah. Hello, ma'am. Yes, we'll check if there are any questions from the team members.
Sure.
Meanwhile, I would like to ask one question, like the dashboard that you had shown. How is it available through any software or any app which you have
Yeah,
shown in the beginning?
Majority of the screenshots that I shared, those were of one office management software. It is by the name of Jamku.
Okay.
There are other products available as well. So depending on your requirements, what suits you best, you can choose a best product.
Okay. We have not received any questions as of now. Let's wait for a few minutes, and all the participants are requested to post your questions in the chat box. Some of the participants are asking for a PPT of this session. So I think the technical team would be able to provide that. And it was actually a very informative and insightful session. And because we are able to know about the practical approach towards managing this practices. And looking at the HR part, VCAs might find it little challenging to work on that, considering the different team members responding in different ways towards making them, if we ask them to fill the timesheets or ask them to enter the details, I think it would be a little difficult and challenging for us.
Yes, I agree. And more so in our profession where team members continuously change. People go on exam leave, articles leaving, new articles joining in. So the HR aspect is all the more difficult.
There is one question, like if we have software of GST and income tax, then again we have to put the data in Jamku.
Yeah, so basically for any firm to work efficiently in today's time, 3 to 4 categories of software are required, and you will be required to invest in it if you want to grow at an exponential pace. So one is our accounting software, for which majority still use Tally. There are other products like Zoho, QuickBooks and all. Second category is the written filing software. Depending on the type of work we do, income tax, GST, TDS, ROC, we have different softwares for different aspects. This third and the more evolving category is this practice management software, wherein some of the data can be copy pasted, some you'll need to fill in manually. So this category is very much required in today's time. If you have to scale up your practice, if you have to monitor that nothing gets missed out. And the fourth category is the audit management tool, like wherein we have Casware and all. So these are required only for very large entities.
And the dashboard that you showed to track the number of GST returns that were filed, the number of 3Bs pending and which are stuck, that was really helpful. That would really be helpful if we use that software.
Yeah, thank you.
I think that this much were the questions.
Okay.
And thank you so much, Preeti ma'am. It was a very insightful session. And on behalf of WMEC, I would like to convey my gratitude to Preeti ma'am and also Kemisha ma'am for arranging this session and for an amazing initiative of Yashaswini. Today, both the topics were very much demanding for our fraternity, CA fraternity. And thanks to our wonderful speakers, Priya Madrecha ma'am, for apprising us with her vast knowledge in this tech field. Also, my gratitude to one and all for taking time to join the session and making it successful. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thank you.